Hey, it's Jordan here in Flint, Michigan. We've been going around today. We were at a church this morning that had a line like you would not believe to get free bottled water. Remember that the governor shut down the free water pods here in Flint in April. And since then, residents have had to rely on essentially uh, churches and places that are distributing water that come in from donations. And I met people online today at this church that were online for 3 hours. Some of these people just to get 2 or 3 cases of water. They were online for 3 hours, and you could see the line wrapped around for blocks. And this visual is very different from what you're told, that the water's fine now by the governor and the state, and the problem's improving, and all this. That narrative that they're speaking about, mixed with what compared to what we saw this morning, something's not right there. I'm here with Rita Wells, and I just came up to you on your porch, you and your husband here, and tell me about what happened when you first, after they shut down the water pods, and you went, I guess, to get one of these churches that are now handing them out. What was your reaction?
Well, I first got when they first shut it down. Yes, I got my two cases, and then a couple of weeks later, after he shut it down, the line was so long I couldn't get in that line. And then after I'm looking at the line, that was the second week I looked at the line and kept riding. I just started crying. It was too much. I'm like, I'm in America. I paid my dues. I worked 30 years in the shop, and now you treat me like I expect this in Africa, not here. And our water has never been tested. If they have had the service pipe is put in down right over there, then they have what they limit. I would have said thank you. We'll do our best. My bill's still high, and I can't drink the water. So we is treated like we're not American citizens, and like we haven't paid our dues, and we have, and it's very frustrating. And if you add up the price of how long you got to stand in line with a gallon of gas at $3, it's not worth it. So I just ask God to help me be able to buy my water because that's the best I can do.
You know, I was just saying, for someone with like just thinking common sense, you don't even need to know anything about the Flint water crisis. The government and the state say the water is fine, yet there are lines literally like wrapped probably a mile down the road uh, of residents just waiting for hours to get 2 cases. So all these media reports, and I got to be honest with you, I think the media here is generally just repeats what the state tells them. But all these media reports are like, well, the water's fine. It's just the residents don't trust that it's fine. Do you actually, is it a trust issue, or is there a problem with the water?
I think it's both. If if it's okay, we don't believe it. How can you believe it? People died. Human died. Okay? And the whole thing is just a sore spot. Because when it first happened, they weren't giving us water filters. They was only giving a certain side of town. But it was so many people in this area that went and they gave it to all of us. So I don't trust them. And whose water are you testing? Mice have never been tested.
And it's interesting you say that because there's a researcher, Pierre Gouvarts. I can never pronounce his last name. He's Gouvert? Okay. He's Scottish? Belgium, whatever. Anyway, he did a study on where in Flint was tested, what areas, what homes, and shocker, the state seemed to lean more towards homes at less risk for heavy lead. So homes, connected to copper pipes, not, and they did not test that heavily on the north side of Flint, which are older homes, poorer. There you go.
Older homes. We're older homes. We're on the north side, which I don't think it makes a difference with what side you're on. Let's test all of our waters, do everybody fairly. I hear stuff like from people that's running for government, to be a governor.
The governor's primary is next Tuesday.
Right. And I hear them say, well, it's happening in so many different areas. But It did not. The river did not. We're not drinking river water in all these areas he's talking about. Yes, the infrastructure pipes is bad. They're old. That everybody knows that. But they did not have to drink water from a river that was already polluted. Right. You can't compare. And if you say it's good, I don't believe it. I'm sorry. And if you're testing it, who are you testing? We have no.
And how are you testing? Because I'll tell you what, I don't want to give it all away because I'm working on getting something published. We just, before going live, about an hour before we went live, published the trailer for a documentary Ty is working on of our reporting. But I could tell you what, Jen and I knocked on 400 doors in 2 weeks, and we found a lot of homes where they were illegally testing water. And that's not me telling you it. The EPA has confirmed that to me on the record, that what I found broke their regulations. The way water was tested in these homes that we found, and the story will come out as soon as we can, broke regulations. That's the EPA on the record telling me that. So it's where did they test? How did they test? And another thing is, I think because the media, and if you live in New York and DC or West Coast, everyone thinks the biggest problem is Trump. That's a whole nother story. I think he is a problem. But there's kind of this notion in people's minds, and because the media doesn't cover this anymore, that it's kind of like, all right, it's not good, but it's not a crisis anymore. What are your thoughts?
It's still a crisis. People, I have grandchildren that's still breaking out.
Rashes.
In rashes. Okay? So it's still a problem, yes. I hear that it's not a problem, but that's no proof to me, especially since I have not been tested and I have no pipes. Right. Now, my pipes might be okay, but I don't know that. Right. So I don't believe it. And they think it's over, but it's not. We don't know if people still could be dying.
And I also think when you hear all this talk, well, there's thousands of other cities with the same levels of lead as Flint. And, you know, Flint, of course, it was terrible what happened, but it's not that different now, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but they're relying on the state's data to say that. They're relying on whatever the state is saying. Oh, where the levels in Flint have fallen to X level of lead. Right. And then they're comparing that to other cities. But if you look into, if you knock on doors like we have, if you look at people's, some studies we've found that there was a lot of cherry picking in how they tested in the first place. I don't think it's quite clear, A, what the real lead levels are here in Flint and what the real damage was done. And you mentioned rashes. When we were knocking on doors, we see people actively, like now, today. I'll never forget it, a beautiful 1-year-old, you know, African-American girl has white blisters all over her legs, her arms, and they just moved into this home in May. They have it since they moved in. She just broke out in this. We see people, you know, African-American kids getting little white pigmentation in their skin that looks permanent. You have one woman told us that her 6-year-old little nephew had to crawl because he was having trouble walking. You have kids forgetting letters in the alphabet, forgetting numbers. You know, one kid could count to 30, now he stopped at 14. This is all happening now, and again, people still getting rashes, yet they tell them the water is fine, and the bills are outrageous, like you were talking about.
$164 is 2 of us. Come on. You know,
you're not using it for anything other than like flushing the toilet, cooking.
That's right. I'm not drinking it. I'm not cooking with it either. I mean, no. I still use the bottle. I don't cook with it. Wash dishes. But taking a shower, you know, and that much, you know, it just, and you get this bill that say you got to pay it, otherwise you take your house. Or, you know, it's so sad.
Tell me more about that, because I see that.
A lien on your home.
Did they put a lien on your home?
No, they didn't, but they threatened to. Then there was something on the news saying they can't do that. But imagine the people that paid attention, you know, that kind of thing.
Because I got some sources saying that the state is trying to basically force Genesee County to follow through on that and put through those liens.
You do that when you cause the problem. You caused the problem, and now you're going to finish it.
Well, what do you think about that? Because we hear, I mean, I've been here so many times. I've heard from hundreds of people at this point. They just think this is a very veiled effort to just push you folks out of here, poor people, black people, and set it up for developers to redevelop Flint.
I believe 100%. That's what it's all about. Getting rid of us. And we actually, this is our home. You know? I believe it. Because why do it? Why even do it in the first place? You took that switch and hit it without testing it? Why?
What would you say to other cities, other states that are having water problems? Like you said, they didn't have a river where they didn't actually treat the water correctly, dumped into their pipes, but they very well might not even know there's a problem because, as we see, the local governments of the state aren't exactly I mean, they denied it for 18 months here. So, because you're seeing more and more every day, there's more water problems in other cities, other communities. Lead in some places. You got poroflynactic compounds now being dumped in water, which basically cause cancer. You have near military bases, groundwater is you're finding contamination because of this like foam, this firefighting foam. I mean, it's like literally everywhere. I just Google every day water contamination, and like 5 or 6 new things come up. There's not a lot of coverage because it's not sexy enough, but you guys are the real like living victims here, because I wouldn't say victims, but you're living with it, because everywhere I go, people either have rashes or health problems are accumulating, immune stuff, nervous system. Some people are getting cancers, and there doesn't seem to be that urgency that this is still a problem.
It's still a problem. My advice is to get somebody to test it that you trust. I mean, they have testing kits right now. You get at Home Depot. Who do I send it to? Who I'm going to trust? And the problem is these pipes are old. That's a fact.
Yep.
You know, and it is in infrastructure that need to be repaired. That's a fact. They're going to have to do that before they have something like Flint, because it will happen.
What are your thoughts on, you're saying when you get your water bill or other people get the water bill, there's a little threat, like if you don't pay it, there could be liens placed on your home. Like, I don't think I'd get that message on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. If there was a water problem and I didn't pay my bill, they wouldn't threaten my home. Because it's just straight up. I mean, Manhattan obviously is diverse, but where wealthy white people live, or even middle-class white people live, they generally don't do that. But in a poor community, it seems like there's a lot of intimidation going on, and they poisoned you, and like you're supposed to pay the bill for that?
Yes. And that's the point. They poison us. We're paying for their mistakes. They threatened. I didn't pay attention to it because it didn't make no difference to me. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. But it was something on the news saying they can't do that. That's illegal. So they can make that threat. Don't pay no attention to it. Let them take it. Let them try.
Right.
We work hard to get what we get.
How are folks in your family, your neighbors here dealing? Are they having trouble getting water? Are they having trouble, paying the water bills? Because, I mean, literally, Flint, I think 2 years ago, was the highest in the country. It's still one of the highest.
My water bill 2 years ago was higher than my consumers. And that's, I mean, I'm going to stay warm. And I don't know if my daughter, I don't know if she's still getting water. I know I'm buying mine. She usually buy those big old things and have a dispenser. My neighbor here, she told me she was in line like 2 hours early. And she was 2 hours early, and she was the 8th person in line. So, and my sister told me she was 2 hours early, and it was a line. We shouldn't have to live like that. No one should have to live like that. Even in the towns you're talking about that has problems now, no one should not be made to live that way.
And this isn't like 6 months after this happened. This is this is 4.5 years now.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, and you're still having the same problem. And it bothers me when I hear, oh, everything's okay. Everything is not okay. It's not okay that we don't have water. Water is essential. And it's not okay.
Well, it also seems like beyond the water, this is a human rights and a human dignity issue, and they don't seem to be caring so much about your rights. And you have this guy, I don't know if you've been following, but Nick Lyon, he's the director of Health and Human Services, who he's the biggest state official being charged in the water crisis. And you have it was supposed to be the last day of his pretrial yesterday, and literally, the judge delayed it for I don't know why. So, but his defense attorney says, well, yeah, he's the head of the Health and Human Services Department, but he's not a health expert, so he can't be held accountable. And he's the head of the health department, but even if he would have warned Flint earlier about the water and Legionella, those people still would have died. So he shouldn't be held accountable. And then they showed a nice picture of him and his family and all that. It just seems like there's a very different standard for wealthy state officials, frankly, wealthy white state officials. Because I know if I did anything like that or I was that reckless. Hello, how are you? Good.
You coming in? Or, okay, go back for a minute. Okay,
I know if I was that reckless, they would have thrown away the key a long time ago.
yes. And that's correct. It's double standards, but it's always been double standards. You know that. And everybody should be made accountable. What was his job? That was his job description. Go back. You don't want to show no naked job. And that's his job description to know. When he took the job, that's his job description. He didn't do his job. And that's what the problem is. They're not doing their job. And I mean, it's a lot of people drop the ball. And you're blaming this person, that person. You're blaming the city manager. Well, the city manager could not have made that decision without the governor. The governor had to tell him, this is what I want you. He told the governor, this is what we want to do. The governor said, okay, do it. No. See, it's a lot of people.
I want to ask you a broader question because I get very frustrated. Our network is really about covering all the issues that the mainstream media ignores. Because really, unless Trump is involved, Putin is involved, now a Playboy model, him paying off Playboy models, unless there's something ridiculous and sensational, they won't cover it. Don't get me wrong, Trump is a danger in my view, but it seems like there's really the priorities are off in this country, because I'm here and I go to a lot of communities like this where there's either an urgent crisis going on or a silent crisis going on.
And it's both. It's urgent and silent. Now that it's out of the midstream, now they say it's okay. It's not okay. It's still dangerous, and we still don't have water. The point of all of this, we do not have running water that we can drink.
And not only that, but if you have young babies going in and getting rashes and white blisters and pigmentation on their face, and still, I mean, obviously the effects from lead could happen over 5 years to 10 years, but having learning difficulties, behaviors, we don't know, behavioral issues, we don't know where the bottom is here as far as the true effects. And you also, it's not just lead. They had high levels of trihalomethanes, which are disinfection byproducts. So a lot of chlorine can cause TTHMs. You have, I mean, there's been bacterial outbreaks, especially in the summer. So it seems like there's not a lot of coverage. And frankly, when I watch your local media, it just seems like a lot of regurgitation of what the state says.
Exactly, and they're not telling you it's still not over. I mean, where are you? I'm going to say it again. Who are you testing? Where's the pipes? Are we going to get I feel, and be truthful about it, they're not going to do it. They got who they're going to do, and that's it.
According to a court settlement, they have to do it, but we'll see. Apparently the law hasn't always applied.
According to the law, the job that they're supposed to be doing, they're supposed to be doing it too. If I give you a job, this is your description, do it. If you don't, it's against the law. But there's no consequences for the ones that's doing it. People lost family members.
Do you think that is dangerous, not just for Flint, but the rest of the country? Because if the people here don't have consequences, then the people somewhere else doing it wrong.
That's for everybody. You know, if you got enough money, then you get away with anything. You're not getting away with it, but I feel that way.
What do you think, my brother, from another mother?
I can't do both. I think you're right.
Eloquent.
And like again, it doesn't. It's not a white or black or whoever. It's everybody in these lines. You know.
I think it's a green. It's green.
It's all green. That's what it started being green. You thought that if you could switch this, you could save money.
It's a class issue. They wouldn't have done this over in the county where the in Langston, and was it Langston? Lansing? Huh? No, Lansing, where the capital is. Yeah, that it wouldn't happen there. You know, it's a class thing. They think because you're poor, black and white, that they won't notice. They don't know no better.
See, middle class. We're not rich, but we're middle class, and it doesn't matter to them. You know, it's not them. You know, I make a decision. It doesn't matter. I go have dinner with someone. When the governor said that he's going to drink it for 30 days.
I think he drank it for 30 seconds.
And where did he drink it from?
Filter.
Okay. You know, and it's punishment for nothing. You know, just because we're a town that doesn't seem like we're thriving now. Now, they wouldn't have done this 20 years ago.
When you worked right.
Right. But it's something going on, but underneath it's something.
Do you have any, last question, do you have any hope with the governor's race coming up and anything structural will change? Let's say you get, I don't know your beliefs politically, but let's say you get somebody, a little bit more attentive to the people of Flint. You think anything could actually change?
I do. I mean, if you got people working together, things will change. But you've got someone that started in the beginning and continue to start. Don't take our water away. You took the water away. It was bad enough you caused the problem. Then you take it away. And a lot of people can't afford to go get any. They got to stay in line. I'm blessed. I can go get it. I'm going to get it. You know, I got one case right now, but the store ain't closed yet. So it's sad. We're in America. And this happened in America. And I see stuff on TV, clean water or pure Michigan. Okay. All right.
I think that's a good place to end. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
So
yeah, I'll give you my info. We're going to be going around, probably trying to interview some other people, and tomorrow as well. Oh, that's okay. So stay tuned. And also, watch the trailer to our documentary. Share that. Get that out there, because Ty has been working on that. And I think it's going to be a really, really powerful documentary to show you what's really happening here, because we knocked on a lot of doors, and that's really what journalism should be, knocking on doors, talking to people, because you're not going to get the truth from government officials unless you strangle it out of them. You will get the truth from the people, and if you get enough of that truth and you get evidence, then you can get it out of the government. So we'll be live again, and if you're not already supporting us, please, patreon.com/Jordan Sheridan Reports, patreon.com/Jordan Sheridan Reports. Definitely not cheap to get travel in. We're going from Flint to Chicago. We're going to be covering a lot of things there. The police in Chicago are out of control, as are a lot of other things in Chicago. So we're going to go there. Might dip into East Chicago, Indiana, too. Get an update on the lead crisis there. So a lot going on. We'll be in Flint tonight, tomorrow, some of the weekend. So stay with us. YouTube is not notifying people, unfortunately. So you got to kind of just check. Check my page, check my Twitter, check my Facebook, so you know when we're going live, and we'll be sending out some other material so you know what's going on. Peace.